Hi, welcome back to a brand new Bad Batch review here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Vanderbrick. Today I'm breaking down the entirety, just my general thoughts on the final season of Star Wars, The Bad Batch. Just wrapped up its final season this past Wednesday night. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk all things movies, TV shows, movie rankings, box office. I also just started doing out of theater reactions over the last couple of months. So please subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. Comment down below, where does The Bad Batch rank for you on the Disney Plus or just even Star Wars shows in general? Even looking at animated and also comparing it to the live action Disney Plus shows. Also, please like the video, guys. The thumbs up button. That is how you support this channel. This could be, again, it is May the 4th. I wanted to actually save this review for May the 4th because I'm going to be watching Tales of the Jedi on May the 4th, and then I'll be doing a review for that probably on the 5th or the 6th. So tons of Star Wars content with Bad Batch just wrapping up, Tales of the Jedi coming out on May 4th, and then a month from now on June 4th is the first season of The Acolyte, which I am going to be considering doing week to week here on the channel. So I'm addicted to Star Wars. It's my favorite franchise by far. I see these movies, all the movies a billion times, seen the shows a billion times. If you know this channel, you know that I'm very passionate about Star Wars. So halfway through the season of Bad Batch, I did just sorry, to backtrack even that. The first two seasons of Bad Batch, I did weekly here on the channel. I've been, luckily my channel's been alive since the beginning of the Bad Batch a couple years ago. I did it week to week. And then coming into the third season, I was kind of like, some of these episodes are just not, it's not that they're bad episodes, but there's not tons to just, for me to just talk about and, spend my time talking about, putting notes together, things like that. So I instead want to do a checkup point halfway through the show, and then I want to do this video, which encapsulates the entire season. So I didn't really keep doing the breakdowns. I think if you see my spoiler reviews, you've seen the Bad Batch. I don't need to break down what happened, what didn't happen. I just want to talk about what my opinion is on the state of the show. So if you know this, if you're here, season 3 spoiler review, you've obviously seen all 3 seasons of the Bad Batch. I'll say this: I definitely felt like I thoroughly enjoyed this show. I think it is a solid entry into the Star Wars mythology. What I'll say is, though, I enjoyed the characters a lot more than I actually did the stories, I guess, that were at place, the big threats and the stories. I think early in the show with the Camino element of it, Camino being destroyed, that was a really great way to start the show in that season 1. This season, they kind of went the Project Necromancer route, and while it was an interesting way to try to connect it even to the sequel trilogy, they kind of let down with that towards the very end of the season. But what I'll say is I really love these characters. I love the Batch themselves. Obviously, we don't have Tech in this season. Tech did not show up as one of the assassin clones that like a lot of people were predicting. But Hunter, Crosshair, Wrecker, and Omega are a great, and Echo are all very memorable characters. You love the dynamics, the family, the brotherhood, but also the family of this group. You can really feel throughout these 3 seasons and even a couple episodes in that final season of Clone Wars. I love the Batch themselves. It would be really sad if this really was the last time we ever see the Bad Batch in anything. Obviously, I don't think we're gonna get any of these like clone big, clone things in the live action stuff, because obviously Tamora Morrison would have to be doing all this. It's a lot easier to do all the clone things as one person voicing all the different characters, and the animators can fix the different styles. It's a lot less time consuming doing animation this way with the clones than you can even see George Lucas in the prequels, which I grew up with. You can tell them technology wise, it's tough to do all those clones with different accents and different looks. It can be tough. So unless, I don't think they're going to continue the Batch. They've made it very clear this is the last season. It would be very interesting if another show down the road, or maybe 1 or 2, really Omega, I think, coming out of the show. I do think Omega has the best shot of returning in a possible live action scenario. So to even talk about the finale, we're back at this Tantis base, and that itself was a really good threat throughout the entire season. And Hemlock was a very solid villain for the overall season. Yes, you had Tantis, you had Hemlock, you had the Necromancer, we had the Emperor. in the early part of the season. We get to this whole point of Tantus, Wrecker's messed up, and you have the kids being rescued. You have the Brotherhood of the Clones, and you obviously knew Hemlock was not going to make it. The interesting part of the episode was also with Rampart, who comes back into the fray in the back half of the season. And once he realized, Lama Su, who's the last Kaminoan and looks like standing, she's about to destroy all of the work that they were doing, that Hemlock was doing to set up the cloning of Palpatine. And Rampart basically is thinking to himself, if they think that this is so important, because Hemlock in their one-on-one thing in this episode, in the last episode, sorry, says that because of the work I'm doing here, I'm untouchable. They'll never kill me. I'm one of the most important people in the Empire. Basically, what he basically told Rampart is what Hemlock told Rampart. And then Rampart's like, well, if they think that this is so valuable that they would keep someone alive over it, I need to get my hands on it and get my way back into the Empire. And they have a really intense scene with Rampart and Lama Su, but she doesn't really, Nala Se, sorry, I say Lama Su, not Lama Se. And she is about to destroy it. She gets shot. The bomb goes off. They're both dead. Nala Se. They both die. The deaths in this episode were crazy, especially for animation. People were getting stabbed through the heart. It's not like violent, but for Star Wars, it felt pretty violent, especially for animation, which I thoroughly enjoyed the action in this final season of Bad Batch. The animation shots also in the final episode, I think, were the best shots of the entire show. The shot behind me with them in the rain, the shot of when it's pitch black and the stormtroopers fires what lights the scene up. Gorgeous animation. Once again, Kevin Kiner continues to prove he's a great composer for Star Wars. He did, obviously, Clone Wars, Rebels, and the Ahsoka show, and obviously this show as well. He did a great job with the score. So I was actually thinking that maybe none of these characters would make it. Maybe just Omega would make it out of the season. But coming into the season, I was really thinking maybe one or two of them would be sacrificing themselves, just like Tech did last season. But no, other than Tech, obviously, who died in season 2, everyone who came into season 3 alive for the batch are alive when the show finishes. So they bring everyone back to Pabu. Emery helps the kids make it there. And I feel like the show's over because we have Omega leaning on Hunter, and you have Tech, and you have, not Tech, sorry. Geez, that's really good. A short subject, not Tech. You have Hunter, you have Crosshair, you have Wrecker, you have Omega, and Badger, obviously, chilling together. And I feel like this is the last shot of ever you'll see of the Bad Batch. But then we do this epilogue. We don't know how many years in the future we are in, but it is Omega grown up. Hunter's really old in this situation. Looks like he has losing eyesight, things like this. And Omega wants to join, really, the rebellion, is basically what the scene clarifies. It's kind of like the daughter trying to run out, do her own thing while the father's there catching her before she runs out. And clearly Hunter and we don't see Crosshair and Wrecker in this fast forward into, whatever it is, decades later at the end of the actual show. It was a really nice scene, beautiful scene. I'm very fascinated in Omega because obviously she's force sensitive. In those whatever many years until she becomes that adult, she is not found as we know. So she's a fascinating character and a character that Star Wars could do a lot with moving forward. She's a force sensitive female clone, very unique. And I'm very fascinated in if what was Lucasfilm and Disney leaving her alive, having her join the rebellion. Where does that put her? Obviously, Bad Batch all takes place before episode 4. We get that big shot with Tarkin to even backtrack the flash forward. The Tarkin scene where Tarkin basically comes in and he says, all of this stuff needs to be destroyed, leave the base, and put all the money into Project Stardust, which obviously is the Death Star, the original Death Star, which was named Project Stardust, because that's what Galen Erso named his daughter, Jin. That's his nickname for her. And Krennic is obviously running that mission, but Tarkin's also a big proponent of this plan. So I'll say that. I think the Project Necromancer, that story, before I get into the future of the batch and Omega in particular, I think Project Necromancer was an interesting idea, but it kind of just feels like something that was dangling over us. This has been a plot line since Rise of Skywalker that a lot of fans wanted answers to. We got it brought up in the Mandalorian season 3, which I did not like Mandalorian season 3, but they did that with Moff Gideon's cloning and talking about Project Necromancer and things like that. Then we get this show, which brings out that Palpatine was doing this well before the original trilogy. But obviously, it does not go to plan. So obviously, Palpatine gets the things post-death, really. Someone had the idea, either he was working on it in the middle of the original trilogy now, or it was post-original trilogy, and he gave the plans to someone to get his cloning thing underway. It is a big loophole that should have never happened in the first place in Rise of Skywalker, and now you have other shows now adding it into their own show, but not answering any of the questions. Mando season 3 didn't help us with any answers to why he was cloned, and this season of Bad Batch definitely didn't either. We don't see what the clone looked like when Palpatine sees it when Sidious sees it towards the beginning of the season. I just felt like it was a bit of a letdown. The overall focus on the Bad Batch, that worked for me, but adding in the Necromancer, the interest in that, everything kind of just gets destroyed and it just gets put into Project Stardust. I just felt like it was a bit of a missed opportunity to if this is not where Palpatine gets cloned, maybe set it up for someone else to possibly run with this idea and concept. They kind of just say, that's gone. Tarkin's like, this is my stuff now, and it's going to Project Stardust. I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity. And as I said, the future, I don't think we're going to see any of the Bad Batch ever again. What I mean is the Bad Batch, I mean the original crew. I just don't, unless we're in a spin-off show, which is sad because Rex is not even in the Bad Batch. We didn't see Rex towards the end of the season, which I wish we did. But Hunter, Crosshair, and Wrecker, I don't know how we're going to get again unless they're part of some spin-off show as well. Not off of the Bad Batch, but they're in a show and the Bad Batch need to be called upon. But again, I assume that would be an animated show, not live action. I think Omega is the one for me who I think has the best chance for her story to continue either in animation or in live action. So I find that to be very fascinating. But overall, what I'll say is I thoroughly enjoyed The Bad Batch. It's a fun show. I never was bored each episode. I think season 3 did the best job of not doing the filler episodes that the first 2 seasons did, where the first 2 seasons can feel quite repetitive, where the Bad Batch are called in, they have to get money, they do a mission, they come back, they collect their money, and they go off to another mission. Kind of same thing every week. This season, there's a lot more threat and epicness to the season. It was more focused, but I think they were dangling a lot of ideas in front of us, and they couldn't really bring all of it together towards the finale. The heart of the show always comes through, and the character work and the voice work always came through. So I appreciate the Bad Batch. It's a really solid entry, but it is not on the level of either Clone Wars or Rebels as a part of the animation analog for Star Wars. And I love Star Wars animation. And again, I grew up with the Clone Wars and Rebels shows. They mean so much to me. I've seen each of those shows a couple of times. You see how important they are to so many people that the whole Ahsoka show is another season of Rebels, basically. Star Wars animation, obviously, is Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire, which I'm doing a review of probably tomorrow here on the channel. But it will be fascinating what the next step is for Star Wars animation. It's been a frequent thing in Star Wars over the last 15, 20 years. What will be the next big show for Star Wars animation? Thanks for joining me on the review of The Bad Batch, and I'll see you guys soon.